Okay, so sorry if it's a little echoey. Um, Here is what I think you're asking me about, which is so we have a file, so we trying to figure out how do we put kind of a distressed texture on one of our layers. And so I have this file open right now. So it's just the background kind of paper bag layer and this color bar layer. In a separate file, I have my texture open. So I think this is what you were talking about, using the channels to make a selection. Um, and so usually, so right now the image is grayscale. I'm going to do RGB just for posterity's sake, because usually images are in RGB and it doesn't have to be grayscale. If you're just drawing from a texture, it's probably good that it's, you can make grayscale, but you can kind of get some good selections done. But so I'm going to go to channels down here, and since it was grayscale and now it's RGB, these are all pretty much going to be the same. But you're going to kind of pick the one, which, like I said, these are all look exactly the same. But you're going to pick the one that gives you the best contrast. And so I'm just going to pick blue, and I'm going to duplicate that layer by just dragging it into that new channel button. So to make a copy. And so then now this is where you do image adjustment levels. And you can drag these levels around to try and figure out how much, basically how much transparency or kind of distortion are you wanting. So anything that's gray is going to read as transparent, kind of translucent. Anything that's black will be your image. Anything that's white, we're going to cut out of it. And so you can adjust these. So if you want it to be specifically like more black and white, you can change that. I don't know. I'm just going to pick some random ones for now. Looks good. Click OK. And so now I'm going to select this little dotted line circle around here, which is load channel as selection. So if I click that, it's going to select all of the white pixels. So you can do this a couple different ways. So I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to click on my RGB channel to just select the rest of the image and not just the one I was on. But it's going to keep my selection loaded. And then layers. So there's two ways that you can do this. You could do, so we're going to just go through the two ways. So I'm going to hit Command J, which is duplicate. And since you have a selection loaded, it's going to, as you can see when I turn this off, it only copied the white pixels. So let's just say that looks good. So now I'm going to drag this white pixel guy in here, and I'm going to drag it over top of my image. And then let's say we're just going to scale this, resize it. I'm actually going to rotate this just for sake. And so one way that you can do this now is you can take this background and you're going to duplicate it. So Command J to duplicate it, and you're going to drag that above what you just did. And then if you do a right click on the actual name and do create clipping mask, it's going to create a clipping mask over that, basically that white that you changed. So the nice thing about this is that now you can kind of move this white distortion around, and you can change. So if there's a better area, so let's say like you really want the bottom to be kind of jacked up, you can really kind of drag that area to get kind of what you're looking at. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it, and so let's back up. The other way to do it is kind of get your thing in place. And then you're going to, on the thumbnail down here, you're going to control click and do select pixels. So it's going to select all those white pixels. And then you can kind of turn that layer off if you want. And then actually just delete them out of your actual image file. And so it just deleted all of that texture out of the image file. The tricky thing with that is that's a little bit more of a permanent thing. Like now, if you ever want to edit that, like you don't have a clean version of that. It's all those pixels are gone. But if that's exactly what you wanted, great. Now it's kind of a little more easier. You don't have to group things and kind of drag clipping masks around or anything like that. But I believe that's what you were talking about. And so I hope that helps.